What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka Descendant of Chaos and Controversy, and here I am with a video to talk about something that is, in my personal opinion, very important. Um, it is a subject matter that has been spoken of, touched upon, addressed, um, in hopes to bring awareness and, I guess, create an intervention and help better the lives of those who this has affected in some shape, form, or fashion. Um, and this particular topic has to deal with addiction and alcohol abuse. Subject matter that I personally am all too familiar with. And because it has affected me in my life, I feel that I should be able to speak my truth in hopes that upon me doing so, I could reach out and touch other people and help them as I'm taking that journey with recovery and trying to better myself and conquering my demons. Um, there is no simple way to approach this in regards to talking about it, especially when you know that you're the particular topic of discussion and you know that putting yourself out there is a big risk. And as I've stated before, I could care less about the criticism, the judgment, or the controversy that might surround this particular video and what I'm about to share with you guys. Um, in my life, I've had my ups and my downs. Um, it basically boils down to a lot of poor decisions that I've made, or decisions that I've made, period. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit. I'm coming at you in raw form. Um, but to get to the point, basically, I abused alcohol and I abused drugs. I could point the finger and say, hey, I did this solely because of this person, that person, yada, 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 yada. But for a person to be mature about it and man up, they have to take responsibility and accountability for their own actions, which a lot of people don't do. Because it's easy to make other people scapegoats. It's easy to put the burden on the other people or the blame on other people instead of accepting your own shit for what it's worth. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I myself haven't done that. But basically, why people probably like hide their addictions is because of the shame, because they don't want to be outcasted, they don't want to be judged in some way, they don't want to be looked upon or viewed in a particular way, where people will start talking because when you have a flaw that introduces others to make you their mouthpiece for gossip, you know. And some people, you know, have the mindset to want to encourage people to do better, to want to shed themselves of their addictions, their vices, because it keeps them from moving forward. It keeps them from being productive. It keeps them from being active in, say, their family's life, their kids' lives, or even on the job, to be productive as an asset to the community, you know. And there's many reasons why people go that route to either be an alcoholic or a drug addict. And in some cases, it has to do with maybe they've been abused as a child growing up, or society has, you know, dealt them an unfair hand, so to speak. Peer pressure, uh, you know, especially amongst kids in schools with, people bullying them, you know. If and we are very well aware of how either people react by committing suicide, um, abusing drugs and alcohol, or taking their frustration out on those who targeted them, for whatever reason, you know, and the outcome ain't never good in any case. For me, in my life, I would say that yes, part of it deals with depression. Part of it deals with some of the things that I've had to deal with in life. Even though my life to a certain extent was sheltered, um, I didn't have a want to need. Um, my parents that raised me uh, financially, they were good, but they were emotionally disconnected. Um, and I'm not really saying that that has a lot to do with it. I mean, it may have something to do with my character, but as far as why I chose to go down that road of self destruction, I wouldn't necessarily say that was a contributing factor. I would say it had to do with more of, I guess, walking that straight line for so long and having this discussion with my sister because she battles her own demons as well. But she said, you know what? When we were speaking not too long ago, she said, hey, I remember when you didn't smoke, drink, or do anything. She goes, I couldn't get you to go out with me, party, or none of that stuff. And then she asked me, like, where did it all go wrong? Why did you decide to do this, that, and the other? And I said, I don't know. Maybe it was partly because of curiosity, and I don't know. Um, but people take chances in life. Sometimes it's a chance to move out of one position into another, whether it be uh, being a bad parent, going into being a good parent, being a not so productive worker on the job to being an overachiever, probably in school when you wasn't good with your grades, but then you got some help and now you're exceeding and excelling. If you was that poor athlete or whatever the case may be, and you put in the work, the hard grind and grit to excel physically and become an asset to the team, or whatever the case may be. But for some, when they move out of a particular position, sometimes they're already in a good position in life and they make the poor choice to remove themselves from what I would say a productive a productive position into a stagnant or destructive position. And that's basically what I did. You know, um, I would say it had a little bit to do with the company that I chose. And mostly the company that I chose had to do with some of the relationships that I got involved with. Um, and it's not to say that I want to say that the people who I chose to get involved with, that I'm looking down on them, but their character in their own right were not good for me. They were toxic. But I ignored that, you know. Um, And it started off with, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't necessarily say when I got involved with my daughter's mom, but that started to get the ball rolling in the wrong direction. Because after my involvement with her, where that failed, I took a turn and went in the wrong direction and got involved with somebody whose lifestyle was, I would say, out of control. And I guess I was addicted to the chaos. So, because I was addicted and drawn and attracted to the chaos or whatever, I decided to just journey down that rabbit hole. And upon doing so, that's where I found myself uh, heavily drinking, getting involved with drugs. And from there, I just took off and never looked back. And some of the consequences behind that was time lost with my kids, me not being secure in any jobs, um, me going in one failed relationship after another failed relationship after another failed relationship after another failed relationship, um, my health, my mood, my attitude, a lot of that, the contributing factors to what alcohol and drugs do to you. Because it does take away from, and it's not so good because then you find yourself in a lonely place by yourself. And I guess, there are a lot of myths behind people who drink and do drugs and stuff like that. And you would take a lot of the input that is presented and place that on everybody. But everybody functions and vices and demons are different. And how they deal with them accordingly is different. You hear people who are alcoholics and drug addicts who give zero fucks, and they'll get over on anyone and anybody, meaning they'll steal from, lie to, and hurt if necessary, to get that high. Me, on the other hand, I'm what you call one of them functioning addicts. Like, I know how to blend in. I know how to hide my demons. And my demons are only exposed around familiar characters who, for some time, I've entertained. But because of that, it got me nowhere. It kept me in a stagnant position in my life. And I know people have heard the term of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was at that point, don't get me wrong, not too long ago, where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I stopped momentarily. But then, it's like they say, no matter where you go, there you are. And I said it before, you could change the people who you hung around with. You could think that you're away from like the dealers who you were familiar with, got contacts with and for. But all of that is fine and dandy if you sever ties and separate yourself from. But if you haven't fixed what was inside of you, as I stated before in another video, if you haven't made peace with yourself, if you haven't thoroughly rehabilitated your mind, body, and soul, then you are still broken. And you're subjected to go back to the same shit that you was entertaining before. And that's what I've done. I found myself going back to entertaining the same shit that I have done before. And again, I'm at a fucking loss. And it's not that people pointed the finger at me and put me down or said that I was this, that, and everything else. I put myself down. I am my own worst critic. I am my own worst enemy. And dealing with depression, that does not fucking help at all. examples that I would give in regards to how drugs and alcohol takes away from my daughter's mother, uh, my first child, uh, talking to my sister, come to find out her health isn't so up to par. She confessed to my sister that she feels that she's dying. Um, she has abused pills and alcohol, and when I met her, the only thing that she has ever done was smoke weed. You know, I didn't even smoke weed at that point. Like I said, I was straight. I didn't do shit. I was just clean cut. Um, when I got involved with my son's mother, that's when the party got started. That's where I just took off and was just irresponsible and reckless. But earlier last year, my daughter's mother called me on the job, and I had a sense that something was wrong. And I told my girlfriend at the time that I think something happened to my son's mother. And sure as shit, I got the call from my daughter's mother telling me that my son's mother overdosed and passed away. When me and her got involved, we used to drink, we used to smoke weed, we used to do coke, um, and then we graduated to smoking crack. Um, and at that point, I thought that was it. We had went our separate ways, and I felt like, for me, enough was enough. I needed to leave all this shit behind. So I took my sister's offer to move down to Houston because that's where she ended up being when she got discharged from the army, um, to be a civilian again, and she was going to college. So I figured, new setting, fresh start. Um, and she ended up moving to Florida. But upon moving to Florida, she ended up, I guess, graduating from smoking crack to doing heroin. And my son was subjected to seeing a lot of the dark side of drug addiction because his mom exposed him to that life, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Um, my son's mother now, my current situation, um, I was back in my addiction with drinking and smoking and shit like that. And I saw her, and I saw an all too familiar character. And I like thinking about the Boondocks when they say real recognize real. Well, addicts recognize addicts, and I was attracted to her, but I saw more potential in her than her just being an addict and other things. Um, but I was of no use and of no help to her because I myself was dealing with the same bullshit that she was dealing with. And upon that, my mood, my anger, my emotions that I couldn't keep in check was out of control. And it put a strain and it affected our relationship tremendously. And because of that, we parted. The one thing that I made a promise to myself about was because due to the fact that we were involved, we had a son. Um, and I know based on my poor decisions in the past, my kids were affected by my fucked up decisions. And I vowed to never ever make that same fucking mistake again. And I found myself repeating that same fucking pattern. But the one thing I know for sure, for certain, that I am not going to turn my back on my son. Um, I know, I do have to repair my relationship with my son's mother, even if it means that we are just friends. I can't hold a grudge. I can't hold a chip on my shoulder. I can't be toxic because kids sense a lot of shit. And I'm hoping that even though I didn't start out being an addict, I didn't start out being an alcoholic and stuff, I hope my kids will never ever have to go through what the fuck I went through or I put myself through. Um, but it's never too late to make a change. People will love to say sometimes when they look at a person and they say, God damn, you've been doing this for so long. How can you ever get back to a point of sobriety where you can function without having drugs and alcohol as a crutch? You know, if you got a problem or you're dealing with certain things and stuff, how can you know that you're not going to be subjected or have a moment of weakness to where that's going to be the avenue that you go down, you know, in order to deal with a lot of issues or problems or stresses or depression? And for me, I can say it's easy. I never started out as an addict. I went a good 20 something years without being fucked up. A good 20 something years later, yeah, I spent time fucking up. I don't know how much time I got left. I know this much, whatever time I do have left, I'm not going to spend the rest of it fucking up. I can't afford to. Not for my kids' sake. A lot of people say talk is cheap. It's the actions of a person that determines, that's the determining factor and can actually show results in the content of their character. Um, and I get that because a lot of people talk a lot of shit, and yes, it comes off being a cheap cliche. But sometimes people don't look at the success stories where I could look at people who were worse off than I was. Or could I say worse off than I am? And they came out of the darkness. Well, they say that that journey was easy. By far it wasn't. But they've had people in their corner. They've had a support system. I don't have a support system. I am my own support system. Yes, I go to group. Yes, I talk about these things. Yes, I digest a lot of the shit that is a burden upon me. No, I don't ask for sympathy. No, I don't ask for nobody to shed a tear. No, I don't ask for anybody to be all, you know, miserable due to what it is that I share. But I ask people to have an understanding. An understanding. Because I am not the only one here in existence in this country or in any other place in this world that battle these demons. And sometimes it's a losing battle for some. Some people don't make it. Some people lose that battle to either alcoholism or drug addiction. And if it's not by them overdosing or the abuse to their body having long-term effects that cause their body to just shut down their organs and they ended up dying, I don't want to be one of those statistics. I don't. Um, I stated before in a couple other videos, my health isn't uh, up to par. I'm very close to being diabetic based on poor eating habits and other things that factor into that equation. But I could change that. I just before I end this, I just want to make people aware that yes, there are some people who battle addictions that you can't help. They're beyond the reach of bringing them back to a sense of normality. Um, they are lost. There are some people that are in purgatory. They're struggling. They're trying to move beyond. They're trying to move past. Um, and it's not easy looking at the man in the mirror. But they do recognize a part of themselves, a fragment, and they want to get that identity back because they no longer want to be lost. They want to be found. And how they find themselves again, who knows? All I can say is it requires effort. Um, I know probably based upon me posting this, I will be faced with a lot of criticism, skepticism, judgment. I said this all before, but it's nothing to be, how should I say, surprised about because generally that's the nature of most people. They can look at other people and pass judgment because they feel that they're so self-righteous. But they'll be the first ones who you'll find out later on got their own demons that they're dealing with, and they are losing too. I know because I used to be one of the people to point the finger at other people. Now I'm one of the people who I point the finger at. But that's all I got. I gotta head on out. Got some runs to make, and I need to breathe a little bit. But that's all I got to share with you, fam. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, until next video, keep your head up. Stay positive. If you're in the same position that I am in, battling these demons, know that you are not alone. If you feel like you're giving up or that you're slipping, find an outlet. Find someone to reach out to. Find someone who can help support you or help you out of the darkness. And make sure those people aren't toxic, and make sure those people have your best interests at heart. Because a lot of people just love to see you fail. But with that being said,